Thank you. All right, well, welcome to Training Services 101. This is the fall 2021 version of our Introduction to Training Services. This is the overview of who we are, what we do, and how we can help you successfully access training opportunities. So to start us off, I'd like to ask everybody to put something in chat for me. If you could put how long you've been with the water boards and what your favorite ice cream is. That'll help me get to know who we're talking to, what kind of experience you have with accessing training, and your favorite ice cream may endear you to me later on. All right. So while everybody's putting that in, we can go to the next slide and we'll have Dawn talk about some tips and reminders.
Okay, so you can use your chat function at any point. One of us will be monitoring for questions while the rest of the team is talking. Please rename your video box so we know who we're talking to, and remain muted when you aren't talking. At the end of each segment, we'll stop to ask if there are any questions about that portion of the training, and of course, we'll take questions at the end. First up, let's go through some housekeeping items and details about our presentation.
Can everybody else hear Dawn okay?
Audio is a little choppy.
No.
We are getting nothing but feedback.
Okay, all right.
At least on that one. There we go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Try
You
again.
want me to repeat that first slide?
Please.
Okay.
Let's repeat the tips and reminders because I only heard a portion of that myself.
All right. Sorry, everyone. So you can use your chat function at any point. One of us will be monitoring for questions while the rest of the team is talking. Please rename your video box so we know who we're talking to, and remain muted when you aren't talking. At the end of each segment, we'll stop and ask if there are any questions about that portion of the training. And of course, we'll take questions at the end. First up, let's go through some housekeeping items and details about the presentation. Okay, so to help you navigate all the information we're presenting, and especially for those who might not watch this live, we've stamped some items throughout the presentation so you can see what is new or updated. We're also making note of some items that are coming soon but worth mentioning today. Expect more info on those items in the future. We'll post this presentation in the recorded Zoom session, and while some of the slides are a bit wordy, they're intended to be used as reference.
Okay, so before we get to the agenda, one thing I did want to mention is we did make some minor tweaks to the presentation. So if you're looking for the most current version, even though one was sent out, you can get that off of SharePoint. So that'll have the most current version that you can follow along with us today if you need to, and definitely to refer back to. So for today's agenda, we're going to do introductions. We'll talk about the training services overview, definitely go over roles and responsibilities of the employee, of the supervisor, and of the training liaison. Guidelines will walk you through the TRF, training request form, and talk about some very important deadlines there. We'll talk about training office reminders, the training academy overview, websites and resources, along with mandatory trainings. And we will have a live demo of both our new updated SharePoint site and the Academy registration system, Go Sign Me Up. And then we'll have a Q&A. So we actually have a Q&A pause at the end of each section. So you don't have to wait all the way till the end, but you can put your questions in chat while we're going, or you can actually unmute and talk and ask us questions at the question pauses. So this is our training services team. So before we talk about that, just looking at the chat, it looks like we do have quite a few really new people here. We have a couple people under a month. We had 5 weeks, so less than a year. So we do have some seasoned veterans with 6, 7, even 14 years, it looks like, in there. But definitely a lot of new people. And whether or not, you're brand new to the water boards, whether or not you've accessed training before, We do this quarterly, and it is a good reminder because things do change, and we realize that you don't always access training all the time and necessarily remember how that goes. Looking at the chat, I believe Denise Hill got the right answer on the ice cream. As far as I'm concerned, peanut butter chocolate is the way to go, but a lot of good choices in there. And I'm going to try some moose tracks. I see that in there, and I have never had moose tracks before. So thank you for that. So as each person introduces themselves, from our team, I'll ask them to tell you their favorite ice cream, which they can start thinking about because they didn't know I was going to ask that question. So I am Jamie Ferguson. I'm ORPP's administrative officer, and I'm the supervisor for the day-to-day operations of training services. I have an amazing team, which currently has one vacancy, our research data specialist. But the team we have to talk to you today is an absolute pleasure to work with. Our training contracts analyst, Lindsay DeFazio, isn't with us today, but that position is the one who does all the behind the scenes work to put together and manage all of our training contracts. And then we'll let Stephen introduce himself and his favorite ice cream.
So I'm Stephen Gonzalez. I'm the training registrar. So anything external outside the training academy, I'm the one that does everything I can to get that paid for and get you registered, including conferences, things like that. I put in the chat that moose tracks is my favorite. Honestly, it really depends on my mood, but moose tracks is a pretty solid fallback. Jamie, if you enjoy chocolate and peanut butter, it has little tiny peanut butter cups in it. You can't go wrong. It's one of the best out there.
Thank you, Stephen. How about Lindsay Wright?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Wright. I'm the training logistics coordinator for the Academy. I work on just all of the behind the scenes things with our vendors to get Academy classes planned and scheduled. I'm also the one who makes sure that all participants in our trainings have everything that they need to successfully attend classes. So you'll hear from me then if you are a class participant, and you'll also hear from me if you email the Academy with any training questions. I feel like I'm going to be hated for this, but I don't actually care for ice cream all that much. But if I had it, I would say chocolate chip cookie dough with butterscotch poured on top is my favorite.
Thank you, Lindsay. I will forgive you. How about Don?
Hey everyone, I'm Don. I'm the office technician of training services. I work a little bit everywhere around the office. I've helped Stephen with the contract registrations before in the training office. On the academy side, I can help you with your account setup, password resets, and I can also get you enrolled in classes. And these days, I'm helping out with the research data specialist vacancy. I'm running the leadership compliance and no-show reports.
So that audio, Don, is still a little bit scratchy.
Okay, all right.
Just so you know.
Is that better?
Not yet. Nope. Same scratchy voices. So we can let you work with that. I think everybody heard you on that one, that Don is our office technician who supports both sides of training services, but lately you'll see him answering a lot of your questions on the academy side, and then also working to help fill the vacancy for a research data specialist. So you might hear from him on no-show reporting and leadership compliance reporting, things we'll talk about later. I do want to know what Don's favorite ice cream is, though.
So my favorite of all time, I go to Dairy Queen and I get like a chocolate blizzard, and it's got, brownie chunks and chocolate chips and the fudge swirls in there too, along with the chocolate ice cream.
Awesome. All right.
Hope you guys can hear that one though, right?
Yeah, that's perfectly clear. So that's
okay.
The really important details are very clear here.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm only having issues. Anybody else can speak up. I'm only having issues with Don chopping up. Everybody else seems really clear for me. So.
Okay. I bought a new
right now you're
webcam
good.
too.
Okay. How about Sarah?
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I'm the technical training coordinator with the Training Academy. I'm Lindsay's right-hand man. I also help coordinate and plan Academy courses. I also read all of your evaluation responses, so definitely make sure that you submit your evaluation responses if you want to share your opinions about this course or any course really. And I also work with staff to develop and deliver new training courses. Oh, and my favorite ice cream, and no one ever says this, I feel like I'm the only one who likes pistachio ice cream, who loves pistachio ice cream.
Oh, you're getting a thumbs up from Stephen, so not that out there. Thank you, Sarah. So like I said, this is absolutely an amazing team, but I think it is noteworthy to see how few names there are here. So while amazing, this is a very small group of people that handles all the training for so many water boards employees. So whenever possible, we definitely thank you for your patience and realizing that there is such a small team behind the scenes. Okay, so the training services overview. So for those who are newer to the water boards, I wanted to explain the distinction between the training academy and the training office. Even if you've been around a while, sometimes that gets confusing and a little bit mixed up. I know that for sure. So combined, they are training services, but there are some very important differences, and knowing what kind of training you need or might be asking us about upfront can be helpful to us all. So the academy brings in-house customized training to you. So the vendor on your TRF, that's your training request form, you're going to hear TRF many times today. The vendor on your TRF is always the academy. And that TRF stays on file with your training liaison. It does not need to be submitted beyond that to training services. The academy works with staff to develop trainings, and you can self-register in Go Sign Me Up, the academy registration system. A very important tip here is to add courses to your calendar, whether enrolled or waitlisted, so you properly keep track of what you've committed to. The training office gives you access to external trainings, conferences, PEPG, and higher education, and the vendor is not the academy. The TRF in this case must be submitted by the training liaison or their backup to the training office. And staff can never self-register without approval from the training office. That's really important. And finally, each side of training services, the academy and the office, they each have a shared inbox. And that's important to know because there are multiple eyes on both of those inboxes throughout the day. So if you need assistance, that's the best place and the first place to reach out. Where if you went to us individually and somebody's out of the office today, it might not be till the next day that somebody sees your request. So for the academy, there's the academy@waterboards.ca.gov, and then the training office has the email indicated there. Another thing that helps some people out in trying to figure out the difference and trying to remember that is to think of the fact that the training office deals with outside training, outside vendors. So the OWIN office helps you think of outside. And that's helped a lot of people just remember the difference, that everything we do here is not necessarily academy training. Next slide. Okay, so next we're going to discuss your role as an employee, as well as the responsibilities of your supervisor and your training liaison. So your role first is to discuss your training plan and priorities with your supervisor. Next, you'll register for training. There's self-registration for the academy classes, or you'll be registering via your training liaison and the training office if it's an external course. But you'll definitely want to make sure that you are following all of training services guidelines. It's very important to calendar the trainings that you're enrolled in, including the academy classes that you might be waitlisted for, and cancel promptly if you find that you cannot attend. As an employee, you have a responsibility to complete your mandatory and your health and safety training, and you should also be sure to complete the course evaluations provided for academy classes. And then the supervisor, they have a very important role in this process. And it starts with discussing the plans and how that fits in with the unit priorities before you approve the TRF. So remember that the supervisor is not just approving the event itself, but also the date, the cost, the category, whether it's job related or job required, as well as the reason for the training. As a supervisor, you should make sure that the TRF is thoroughly completed before passing it on to the next approver. Ensure that the staff calendar the training, as I said, and cancel promptly. And then as a supervisor, if you have someone who is unexpectedly out of the office for a significant period of time, it's your responsibility to contact the appropriate part of training services so we can cancel their trainings before we end up paying for an empty seat. Supervisors need to ensure that staff attend their mandatory and required health and safety courses, and that they follow up with the employee who has a no-show or failed to sign in for a specific training. And then the liaison. So the training liaison is the primary contact for all training questions, and they should be the person reaching out to training services most of the time as needed. The liaison provides the staff with training updates and announcements for certain conferences. They communicate employee questions to training services and ensure that our training services guidelines are followed. The liaison submits the training request forms to the training office, and a major aspect of this work is ensuring that all TRFs are properly filled out, that they are signed by the authorized approvers, that they meet our submission deadlines, and that they can in fact be processed. I happen to be the administrative officer for the Office of Research Planning and Performance, ORPP, and I provide a training services update at the monthly AO, which is Administrative Officer meetings. So that's another place that a lot of the liaisons and administrative officers can get additional information. So besides us, the liaisons will be the most informed place to ask your question, and they may have already asked and had the answer. So definitely look to your liaison as a resource to help when you're new, help get you started, help you understand the process, and to have the most up-to-date information. So we will pause for questions. I am looking over here to look at chat. And Will has a question. Why is there only a handful of us in this training, expecting hundreds of attendees? So like I said, this is something that we do quarterly. So certainly we want to get all the new staff in the office, that have come on board since the last time. We hope that they will attend, and that supervisors and the training liaisons are encouraging those people to attend this training to kind of get the lay of the land, but also get the most current updates. So for everyone else at the water boards, you definitely wouldn't attend every single quarter that we do this, just as things change. If it's been a while since you last went through the training processes and kind of need a refresher. So we did expect a small group. And then you'll see later, Joanne, on the question is, where can you find a list of training liaisons? So we do have that posted on SharePoint for you, and we will have a demo of that later on. Any other questions I missed so far? Okay. So next up, we're going to have Stephen, our training office registrar, walk you through training services, forms, and guidelines. Things do change throughout the year, like I said, and this is a great opportunity to make sure you understand our processes and guidelines. I think it's really important to make sure you understand how all the training stuff works before you're actually looking at a training class that is coming up quickly and maybe filling up. So it's important to make sure that you do know how to log into the Academy site, that you do know what the actual process is. So a lot of important information there. And like I said, things do change throughout the year. And Lindsay Wright, our Academy Training Logistics Coordinator, is also going to talk in detail about cancellations. Excuse me. And then we're going to hear from Dawn about no-shows.
All right. For any who have not used these yet, this is your training request form, or TRF. Every time you submit one, you should download the latest version from our SharePoint site. It does get updated periodically to add new classifications or change some details around. So just make sure that you're pulling the latest form from SharePoint. Also, it is noted at the top there in red to open the form directly in Adobe. If you use it in a browser, it will not work correctly. There's actually a lot of programming involved in this that helps us track things quickly and efficiently. And it only works if you open it directly in Adobe. Your responsibility is to fill in all the fields noted there, all your employee information, the course information. One thing that really helps me out is putting an actual link to the website for that training event rather than just a vendor's homepage. Having that link can really help me do the research I need to make sure the procurements happen correctly and efficiently. Next thing you do is sign with your digital signature. All you got to do is click on that box where you're supposed to sign. And if you don't have a digital signature certificate set up, it will prompt you on how to create that and get it all set up. And the last thing you do is click that green button up at the top that says submit to next approver. It will create an auto-filled email with all the details of your training. And all you have to do is type in your supervisor's email address and hit send. It'll automatically attach the form. The supervisor will basically review all the information to make sure that the class is appropriate, the cost is approved, and everything. They will do the same signature process down below next to your signature, and they'll click submit to next approver. It goes to the deputy executive officer or delegate, and they put that third signature in, submit to next approver, and send it to your liaison, who will review the whole thing to make sure that it meets submission deadlines and all the other requirements that they're aware of. And then they submit to training. There's that gray button down at the bottom that says submit to training. You should not be the one clicking that unless you are a training liaison. The next couple of slides deal with another common document, the conference package. If you are requesting attendance at a conference, there is a form for that that needs to accompany your training request form. It's called the conference package form. It's 3 pages that you have information to fill out. Each one will have a bunch of these blue fields. Those are the ones you fill out. They have a lot of other fields. These 3 pages talk to each other on the back end a lot and will autofill things. So basically the idea is that nobody has to enter the same piece of information twice. So when you put your name up at the top, it'll auto-populate that on the other pages, things like that. You'll need to get your supervisor or deputy director to sign the top signature box before those get submitted to me. And there are a couple of reminders at the bottom there. I've kind of highlighted them. So if you have any questions regarding who actually needs to sign, go ahead and check that out, and then attach that with your TRF when you send it, when it goes to your liaisons. The next page is the individual cost breakdown. So again, you fill in the blue field, the white fields will auto-populate elsewhere. You'll notice up at the top, it says employee name, organization, classification. Those things autofill from the previous page. This will do all the calculations for you and put the totals on that first page. So you don't have to do anything. Just enter your mileage, enter your per diem, your hotel room, things like that, and it'll do the rest of the work for you. The next page is, for my purposes, probably the most important page in the package. And those top fields will auto-populate, but here is where you have to put a mission critical justification. This is something that I'm required to include when I submit conferences for executive approval. And every single person going needs to have this filled out unique to them. In the past, I have seen units copy and paste the same justification for everybody. And while you may all be going for the same reason, and I understand, these justifications really do need to be unique to each person. It needs to have a brief description of your job duties, why you specifically need to attend the event, and on the impact to the water boards if you can't attend. I've seen some that are as simple as, well, I won't have the information, and some that are downright apocalyptic. All I ask, just be realistic in your assessment of the actual impact. And then a brief description of why it has to be done now, why the information can't wait. The next page here, we have some reminders. There is a list available on training services on our SharePoint showing who is authorized to sign each line of your TRF. Those do get updated in real time. As soon as I get the update, I update SharePoint. Those updates come to me from the liaisons usually. So if you have any questions on who your TRF needs to get routed to, you can always check that signature authorization list. The liaisons use that to verify that the person who signed for the deputy EO or delegate is authorized. It seems like a little thing, but it is actually quite important. So again, please make sure that the correct people are doing those approvals. Next, I have some information to share on the SharePoint here. There is a button on the front page that says Access Training and Conferences. Go ahead and click that to find registration, cancellation, and no-show guidelines. For contract vendors like CalHR and CPS, TRFs are due to the training office at least 10 business days before the registration deadline or course start date. If there is no deadline for all non-contract requests, the forms are due at least 35 business days in advance of the registration deadline. And if you ever have questions about that, these links here are all clickable and will take you down below to the applicable section for those deadlines and for any updates regarding those submission types. This is just kind of an outline of each training request type, the submission deadlines and guidelines that go along with that. You'll notice in red that we do have our end of fiscal year deadlines already posted. We know that, for example, conferences and non-contract training, we need the TRFs in by January. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. One thing that I get a lot of questions on every year is, what do we do if we have training later on in the year, May, June, but the date's not completely firm yet? Go ahead and submit your TRF anyway. And if the date needs to get corrected, I can do that. That's not going to usually have much effect on the procurement process, but if I don't have a placeholder on file, it's very, very difficult and often impossible to add things on after that fiscal year cutoff. If I have a placeholder, I can work with you and your supervisors to make sure that we can make adjustments wherever possible. So just a couple of reminders here for Academy courses. Make sure your TRF goes directly to your supervisor. For non-Academy courses, still going to go to your supervisor, but just pay attention to those submission deadlines. Make sure to get your requests in as early as you can. That's very helpful to us. On the next slide, there is a typo there. I apologize. Non-contract requests are due to the training office at least 35 business days, not 45. Sorry. Although if you can do 45, that'd be great. The more time, the better. Conference requests, an additional reminder, those do need the additional documents. And I know Jamie touched on it earlier, but self-registration, again, is never allowed without prior training office approval if there's any cost involved at all. Post-approval is not allowed, and staff can be held financially responsible for improperly incurred costs. So please, please, please remember, don't pay out of pocket unless the training office has sent you that approved TRF that specifically states self-register, pay out of pocket, and seek reimbursement. we'll touch on that a little more in detail later in the presentation, but for right now, Lindsay's going to go over the cancellation guidelines.
Thanks, Stephen. So our cancellation guidelines were actually updated in 2020, and I just wanted to provide a review so that you'll know what to expect when you register for trainings. So when you register to participate in a class, it is considered a commitment to attend, and it's your responsibility to make sure that the class aligns with your calendar schedule. It's important to note that even if you are waitlisted for a class, you are expected to add it to your calendar and fill out a TRF, since you can become enrolled at any point up to 3 days before the class. If a cancellation absolutely needs to happen, you do have the ability to self-cancel in Go Sign Me Up. And I will touch on that a little bit when we review the registration system. The deadline for canceling your registration is 4 days before a training, but after that, you will be locked into attending and the Academy won't be able to assist with your cancellation. The cancellation guidelines can be found on the Training Services SharePoint site, and we have also included a link at the end of this presentation for them. The cancellation guidelines for the training office are a little bit different from the Training Academy. Just note that for them, it's at least 7 business days notice for the training office. And it's also really important to note that even though sometimes you do have the ability to cancel directly with the vendor, we ask that you please do not do that. You always want to work with your training liaison and the training office to cancel a class. So there is a real cost associated with every seat in a training, and it's important to note that it wastes Water Board's resources when you do not show up for courses you are enrolled in, and it also takes a seat away from any waitlisted participants. Our waitlists are a real thing, and they can be really large, so we ask that you cancel as soon as you know that you cannot attend a class. This gives the next waitlisted staff the chance to properly prepare for the course that they're going to become enrolled in. Also, there are some consequences involved when you do not show up for a class you are enrolled in. You'll be marked as a no-show for every course you are enrolled in but fail to attend, do not sign in for every day, or do not fully participate in. And repeat offenses can result in a self-registration freeze. So let's see, the no-show process, what I just went over here. So like I said, repeat offenses result in a registration freeze. So you do get a couple of no-shows before that self-registration freeze occurs. So with the first no-show, Training Services emails a reminder of the cancellation guidelines and indicates the name and the date of the class where the employee received a no-show. Same thing with the second no-show, and that is also CC'd to your supervisor. And then after the third no-show in the current fiscal year, Training Services emails the employee with a CC to the supervisor and AEO. So anyone frozen from self-registering for future courses will have to either wait 6 months for the freeze to clear, or will need to successfully attend 3 consecutive trainings. It's basically whichever one comes first. A self-registration freeze doesn't prevent you from attending mandatory or job-required training, but it does limit your ability to self-register. If there is a class you are required to attend for your position, the Academy will still allow you to attend with a request from your supervisor. So next, Dawn is going to walk us through the details of no-show reporting.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. How is that, everyone? Is it still choppy?
Nope, that's good.
Okay, great. Okay, so what is a no-show or a failure to sign in? Per the cancellation guidelines, we define no-shows as anyone who shows up for a course and doesn't attend, or signs up for a course, doesn't attend, Anyone who attends a course and does not sign in via the virtual sign-in sheet. In addition, an instructor may reach out to us and indicate that someone was present but not participating in the course. That is also considered a no-show. We consider participation to be engaging in the chat.
You're breaking up again, Don.
Okay.
I don't know if there's something different about the way you just moved or if you have a weak connection on a plug. But the first half was crystal clear and the second half got all. Right now, I can't hear you at all.
How about now? Better?
Sounds good. Yes.
Okay, all right. So where did I leave off? Considering what is participation, engaging in chat, the breakout sessions, and engaging in the course and not working on other things while attending. You must attend all the time to receive credit, and there's no partial attendance of a course. And I want to take a moment to emphasize the importance of signing in via the virtual sign-in sheet. It's the only way that we can record attendance and grant credit for attendees. Also, if you are attending multiple day courses, you must sign in each day to receive credit. The sign-in link will always be available on your virtual training details email. And Lindsay will talk about those emails later on in more detail. So the Training Academy now tracks no-shows. Each month, we send emails to any employee who no-showed, and we CC their supervisor. Each quarter, we share a summary report with AEOs, assistant deputy directors, or assistant office directors. Like Lindsay said, once an employee reaches 3 no-shows, their registration privileges are frozen due to an identified pattern of no-shows. There is the exception for mandatory training, where the supervisor of a frozen employee must email the academy.
You're breaking up again, Don. Okay, I'll let you work the audio out, Don, and I'll keep going on that slide that Don was saying. I think you heard everything before. That once 3 no-shows are reached, an employee's registration privileges are frozen due to the identified pattern of no-shows. There's an exception for mandatory training where the supervisor of a frozen employee must email the academy on the employee's behalf with a justification for enrollment in the mandatory course. As Lindsay mentioned earlier, employees will be unfrozen after a period of 6 months or after the successful attendance of 3 courses without a no-show. And we'll be monitoring whether frozen staff are attending courses through the academy or the training office on a monthly basis. And if we see that they've reached 3 without a no-show, they will be unfrozen. However, for external courses taken through the training office, note that to get credit, staff must email us with their certificate of completion. And once the freeze is over, employees will have their Go Sign Me Up account. That's the academy account. Their access will be restored by the training academy, and they'll receive an email with a CC to their supervisor, letting them know that their account is now unfrozen and access has been restored. So it's important to know that no-show tracking resets every fiscal year. So on July 1st, the no-show counting will start over. And additionally, we do email a month behind. So in the month of September, you'll be hearing about your August no-shows. And if you email or if you no-show one at a time, you'll get different emails in different months. But there are situations where somebody has 3 no-shows in one consecutive, all in the same month. So you're just going to get one email. And that's because the attendance doesn't actually get into our system through our different vendors on time for us to do that any sooner. So you'll always be getting an email about what happened the month behind. Hopefully that's clear. And then we can move on to questions. Specifically, Stephen, there was just a comment in the chat that the majority of the time people make up a deadline for early bird registration or the actual registration deadline. A lot of trainings don't have deadlines like that, and that's CHMEA, FLETC, things like that. So can you talk about what happens if they don't know what the registration deadlines may be?
Yep. Making one up is easy enough, but believe it or not, it would be better for me if you leave it blank or put the course start date. If there's no posted registration deadline, then the course start date is the registration deadline for my purposes. Dealing with conflicting information can kind of take away from some of my processing time. So if there isn't one, or you don't know what it is, or you can't find it, leave it blank, please, or go ahead and just put the actual course start date in there, and I can go from there. Often what I run into when people make up a date is that they just kind of pick one, and sometimes it'll be, it won't be in keeping with the submission guidelines, and so it'll get kicked back by either the training liaison or by me. And then we have to kind of point out, oh, well, it's actually just an arbitrary date. And that can sometimes make all the difference. So again, if there's no posted deadline, leave it blank. That's the best thing to do.
Thank you, Stephen. And I just, on the no-show piece, I wanted to say it out loud again and make sure that it is clear that, you know, a no-show where something happened and you weren't able to attend the training is the same from our perspective as you failed to sign into that training. So if that happens, that's why we give you 3 chances, because things do happen. And people have legitimate reasons that they need to not be in the training that we registered them for and paid for. But understand that failing to sign in is the same thing. And we don't need, if you, when you receive that no-show report, we don't need additional information. We don't need you to have somebody vouch for you, have your supervisor vouch for you that were there, or the instructor, anything like that. It's really cut and dry, plain and simple, that you failed to sign in for the training you attended. So you'll receive a no-show / fail to sign in there. But any other questions on the cancellations, the no-shows, all those guidelines they talked about? Those deadlines that Stephen talked about, the end of year, are really important. So like he said, we end in January. We stopped taking the TRFs for non-contract training. So that's, where you really do need to plan ahead and think about what you're planning to do for the rest of the current fiscal year and get those TRFs in to our office. And like he said, there's, based on the way we have to pay for things, there's really nothing we can do after the fact. If you do, and we realize people are in a circumstance where come May, they found out about something happening in just a couple of weeks, it's super important. Nobody knew about it, but we just simply don't have any ability to pay for that. Okay, I do not see any others in the chat, so we will move on to the training office reminders, and we'll go back to Stephen so he can talk about some more details.
So I created this process tree to kind of show the difference between what happens with an academy TRF and a training office TRF, just because there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people send me their academy TRFs directly, or things like that happen. So they both start with you submitting your TRF to your supervisor. For an academy class, your supervisor and AEO will review. You will self-register. TRF goes to your training liaison and stops there. They just stays on file with them. Your training history is tracked through those sign-in sheets and through your Go Sign Me Up profile. But I don't actually have anything to do with those TRFs. They just stay on file internally with your org. On my side, the similarity ends at the supervisor and AEO review. Your training liaisons take it from there. They review and they submit it to me. One common misconception is that a training request form is fully authorized once your AEO is done with it, and that is actually not the case. Once it comes to me, I go ahead and do a budget review to make sure that there's the money there, that we're not, going over any vendor limits, anything like that. I work with procurement and accounting to secure payment for the training. Unfortunately, if I can't get an authorized payment mechanism, I can't do the registration, and neither can you. It's super important to remember no registration without a fully authorized returns TRF. Once I have that payment arranged, I'll go ahead and register on your behalf. One of the reasons it's super important that I'm the one doing the registration is oftentimes I've done behind the scenes work with vendors to get, you know, 5 get your 6 free, or any, you know, various other deals that I'm able to arrange with these vendors. For instance, with CASPLA, I had they set up a web portal specifically for me to do all the registration for just the water board staff in accordance with an agreement we made. So, you know, make sure that I'm the one doing the registration. You're not self-registering unless I've sent your TRF back saying this is authorized to self-register. Once you have that training office approved TRF, that is a fully approved request. That means I've registered you, the payment is secure, everything's ready to go, and you should be calendaring that at that point. The 35 business day submission guideline is something that I absolutely need every minute of. I know sometimes that can be kind of far in advance, but that's to allow me the time I need to secure all the different approvals, registrations, payment mechanisms, everything. And one thing, that note right there in the middle of the slide, TRFs should never come directly from staff to training services, whether it's for the academy or the training office. You should always be sending those up the proper chain, and not submitting those directly on your own behalf to the training office or the training academy. And that's to make sure that all the reviews are done in the proper order and for the proper guidelines. Your training liaisons get their own training directly from us regarding updates to those processes and procedures. And if they kick one back, it's because we've told them to. And that's, again, part of the reason that staff could never submit those directly to us. The next slide has some reminders regarding conferences. We do have a list of regularly announced and attended conferences for waterboard staff. I do send out those announcement emails to all the administrative officers and training liaisons, and those will all have a deadline associated with them in the email. They are hard deadlines. Unfortunately, I have zero wiggle room on these things. So please make sure to adhere to the deadlines. Any deadline in one of those emails supersedes any other posted deadline and is specific to that conference. So if it says the TRFs are due 50 business days in advance or 20, that supersedes other posted guidance. I touched on this earlier. Justifications must be unique and they need to be strong. I can't tell you the number of times it's critical I attend this because the information is important has been kicked back. That doesn't fly with the people I need to get the conferences approved through. So please make sure to be specific and detailed and strong in your justifications. For anyone who is planning to present or submit an abstract for a conference, please, 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 I cannot stress this enough, get a TRF and conference package in as soon as you submit your abstract to the vendor. I've had issues with this since I started, where a presenter doesn't know that they have been accepted until after the TRF submission deadline. And it is really difficult to add people on after the fact. If your presentation doesn't get accepted, it's much easier for me to take you out of a conference than it is to add somebody in late. So again, if you plan to present, if you would like to present and you're submitting an abstract, please absolutely submit your conference documents as soon as you can. Anything that's incorrect or incomplete does get returned to unprocessed for correction and resubmission. If there is any wiggle room in the deadline, unfortunately, often there is not. So I try to review these things as they come in and address any issues before those deadlines. But just make sure that you're filling these out correctly and completely before you submit them. Next up, I have a screenshot here of that list of regularly attended conferences. This does get updated periodically to show what the submission deadlines are, what date the conference is happening, where, in what format, if it's in person or hybrid or virtual. At this time, we are still strongly urging staff to pursue virtual options wherever possible. If there is no virtual option, please just make sure you're weighing your decisions here when requesting in-person events. Please also note that in-person attendance is subject to greater scrutiny when I submit for approvals. So if those do come back denied, also please understand that that decision is made far over my head. But you'll get all that communication as soon as I have it. Next up, I think this is the last time I'm going to harp on this, but I cannot stress it enough. Do not self-register for anything with a cost without training office approval. If the training is completely free, if it's a webinar that's virtual and there's no cost to sign up, training office approval is not necessary. You don't have to submit a TRF all the way to us. You should still arrange with your supervisor to make sure that the time is approved. But if there's absolutely no cost, you don't need our approval to register. If there is any cost, however small, it needs to come through us. Again, do not pay out of pocket for training unless you have that fully authorized TRF from us. Conference registration is only okay if the TRF is approved by the training office in advance of registration. Oftentimes, I am not able to secure a payment mechanism in time for conference registration just because the process of approval is very long. And we can, however, approve reimbursement. Just make sure that you're not paying for it and expecting that approval to come back for reimbursement. Don't pay for anything until you have that in hand. For any engineers and geologists out there, the PEPG exam prep courses are something that we approve for reimbursement after a review process. Each section of the test can be approved one time for reimbursement. We'll have a little more information about that later in the presentation. And if you have any questions, please always ask your training liaisons. If they have the answers, they'll make sure you're clear. And if they don't, they will ask me and I'll make sure everybody's clear. But those are the big do not pass go reminders. And then next, I'm going to kind of switch tracks here. CalLearn. This is the online registration system for CalHR courses, which are our biggest contract vendor for training office training. If you don't currently have an account, this is how to get one. Go to that calhr.geniusis.com website. That is a clickable link in the presentation that we sent out. You will be prompted to log in, and if you don't have an account, click that don't have an account button there that I put a blue circle around. Make sure to enter all your information correctly, and I can't stress this enough. It is critical that you select Water Resources Control Board. The option directly previous is just Water Resources, and that's Department of Water Resources, not us. If you accidentally get that wrong, I won't be able to register you for anything. I won't be able to see your account, and it's not something I can fix on my end. I have to actually work directly with CalHR to get that done. And sometimes they get it done, within a few minutes, and sometimes it's taken a couple of days and somebody's missed a class because of that. So please make sure you're selecting Water Resources Control Board there. Next up, oh, and I'm sorry, only use your water board's email address on there. Don't use any regular, private email address. To access their course catalog, make sure to click on Register for Course. That can get kind of tricky sometimes, in that it's very easy to accidentally self-register. But because these courses usually have a cost, self-registration is not allowed. I have to be the one to process it because I'm tracking the budget. I'm making sure that all the funds are there, things like that. So click there on Register for Course to find the courses you want. Make sure that you can put the course title and cost on your TRF correctly. To find that cost, you can click the info button that I've circled there, and it'll pop up a little window that will show cost per person. Go ahead and add that onto your TRF, and then leave it there. You don't have to do anything else in CalLearns. I'll go ahead and do the registration part on your behalf. On the next slide, I mentioned that we do have more information on the PEPG licensing prep courses. We do help staff access those. Make sure, again, to submit your TRF at least 35 business days in advance of the course. A lot of these are self-paced on-demand courses that don't actually have a set start date. If that's the case, make sure to put a date on there that is far enough out that you're not going to run into any submission deadline issues. And there's a box on the TRF that is a direct entry box for a brief justification. Please put in there, if your course is an arbitrary start date, that that's where it goes. Please note it there. That will help me in processing things and getting the correct authorizations and reviews done. Again, don't self-register until you get our permission. That will help make sure that you don't get stuck holding a bill unexpectedly that you can't get reimbursed for. The actual PE or PG exam itself does not require a TRF. That doesn't go through us at all. That's just a simple travel expense claim. Just submit that directly to the travel desk for reimbursement. That doesn't have to go through us at all. At this point, I'm going to pause for questions. I see your comment there, Will. Unfortunately, I'm not the one who programmed it into CalLearns. CalHR worked directly with their vendor to set up everything for their learning management system, and it's not as easy to change as you would think, but it's a good question.
So just to highlight while people are thinking of their questions, if there are any, just to highlight, what Stephen said, I just want to make sure it's really important for everybody to understand whatever our guidelines are. Right now, it's 35 business days for external training. Those do change, first of all. So when you see SharePoint, you need to watch and check and make sure that you are working with the current guidelines on when we can and cannot accept things. But when we put 35 business days out there, Stephen on the training office side does need every moment of that 35 business days to have a chance at registering people for things. So, we really do have our guidelines set as far out as possible, or as close to the start date, the other side of it, as possible. But that means that he is going to accept them up until the 35 days and then the next day turn around and submit and start all of the processes. So first of all, your training liaisons should reject your training request forms if they are submitted outside of those guidelines. That's the way it's supposed to work. They're not supposed to come to us, and you shouldn't be asking your liaison to submit anyway. And, we don't need to hear why it's so important from the supervisor or your supervisor, and then some, because unfortunately, it's just all tied to our payment mechanisms. It's not, even though we do have an extensive workload here, it's not about whether or not we can fit in processing your TRF. It's about how we actually make these things happen. And when we are dealing with the requests and the follow-up and things like that on things that happen outside of those guidelines, then that is less time Stephen can spend working on registering people for training. And like I said, the payment mechanisms are in place going through, and we can't add people, we can't take late additions. So we get a lot of questions like that. And just wanted you to know that we do support and do expect the liaisons to follow those guidelines, to be aware of what they are, the current guidelines, and to reject TRFs that don't fall into that category, because there's really nothing we can do outside of that. All right, let's move on to the Training Academy.
Okay, I'm off mute, right?
Yes.
So to start, a lot of staff have been curious to hear about the future of Academy trainings. And while we do not know specific details yet, we are looking at continuing with some of our classes as virtual and then hosting others as in person. We have received some inquiries regarding the capacity of our virtual classes, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone that the number of seats available in a course is dependent on the contract with the vendor, and it's not dependent on how many participants can join a Zoom session. Just because a course is virtual doesn't mean that it can accommodate more participants than an in-person training can. So with that, let's dive into our registration system. The Training Academy runs the Go Sign Me Up registration system, and it's used to keep track of all trainings the Academy announces, and you'll use the system to sign up for new trainings and keep track of previous courses that you've attended. There are a few commonly asked questions that come through, and I just first like to go over these with you. So number one, if you do not have a Go Sign Me Up account, there is no way for you to create one yourself. You can email your training liaison, and either they or the Academy will create a new account for you. You just need to make sure to provide your name, your email address, the organization that you work with, your classification, and then whether or not you are a supervisor. And then once we get that information, we will go ahead and send you a email response with your new login credentials. And we've tried to make these as easy to remember as possible. So your username is always going to be your first name, last name, email address. And then the password is changeme2015. And that's actually something that you can update yourself at any time. Also, Go Sign Me Up provides a transcript, which you can use as proof of training attendance, and you can print that yourself at any time. I am going to now walk you guys through a live demo, and I'll show you a lot of the features of the system, including how to reset your password and also how to print your transcript. And since this is live, just bear with me because it's dependent on internet connection, so it could be a little slow here. So first, I'm going to show you how to reset your password if you do not remember it. So you want to go up to the left-hand corner where it says log in. And it's not working. Hang on one second. Let's refresh. Okay. So like I said, your username is always going to be your first name, last name, email address. So you should never have to say that you forgot that. But if you forgot your password, you want to go ahead and click on forgot username or password. And then this screen will come up for you. It says, are you having trouble logging in? Yes, you are. You want to make sure that a student is highlighted. And then you click on I don't know my password. And then to reset your password, you have to enter your username and email address. So like I just said, your username is your water board's email address, and then you just type in your email again. And you do not have to click on the I don't know my username because you have that information, and then you click the continue button. And once you do that, it's going to send a reset password link to the email that you just gave it, and then you just follow the instructions in that email to reset your password. But for now, I have to reload again. Sorry, guys. For now, I'm just going to pretend that I remembered my password, and we will sign on here. Okay, so once you log into your account, it's going to take you directly to your dashboard. So there are a lot of things on this dashboard that you can either change, or there's a lot of information on this dashboard that can help you figure out what trainings you are enrolled in, waitlisted for, and then it will also show you all of the communication that's been sent to you from the registration system. But first, I just wanted to show you what you could update on with your information. So to change any of this, you just click on the pencil icon, and then you can update your password at any time here. If you ended up changing to a different region or a different classification, different division, you can update all of this yourself. If you had a name change, you can update your name here. After you make those changes, you just need to make sure that you hit the save button. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't change anything, but you just want to make sure that you hit the save button, and then it will save that information for you. So that's your student information. So then in the courses box here, this will help you figure out everything that you have going on training wise. So right now it looks like Luke Skywalker is enrolled in this field safety training, and it's going to show you the date here on 10/6. If I go to the waiting tab, that will show me that he is on the wait list for the 8-hour HAZWOPER refresher course on 10/13. The past tab is actually going to show you all past courses that you are signed up for, but that actually have not been added to your transcript yet. Now your unofficial transcript tab, this is where you can run your transcript to use as proof of your attendance in courses. So a few important things. Number one, you have to type in date filters here. So let's just say you wanted to see it for, the month of September. Once you plug in your date filters, you need to remember to click on this filter button before you click on the print button. So if you forget to click on the filter button and you click the print button, it'll actually just show up as a blank page for you. So always remember to click filter and then print, and then you can take that transcript and save it as a PDF on your computer. So that's your unofficial transcript. And then the canceled tab. Give it a second. Oh, maybe, sorry. Sorry, y'all, it's thinking.
And I think that's important for people to know that Go Sign Me Up on its best day is not quick. So definitely be patient with it. And when it acts just like it's doing for Lindsay right now, you don't need to let us know that there's something wrong with it. That actually is it. So if anybody wants to buy me a present, I'm looking for a learning management system under my tree this year. But
Yes.
yeah, so you do have to kind of pause and wait a little bit with Go Sign Me Up.
Yes, and I am notoriously not patient with computers, as I'm sure you guys can see right now. And like I said, it's also dependent on your own personal internet connection. Just another thing to add to that, Go Sign Me Up also, I know it's a little archaic now, but Go Sign Me Up also works best using Internet Explorer. So like if you're trying to do any of this using Chrome or Firefox, any of the other ones, any of the other internet browsers, you might run into issues. So if you ever have trouble registering for training, you might just want to try switching to Internet Explorer and see if that helps you. So we just did the transcript tab. So then the canceled tab shows you all of the courses that you have canceled out of. The most recent one here being the 8-hour HAZWAPR refresher on 10/13, which is a different session from the one that Luke is on the waitlist for. So then from this box, you can also cancel out of courses. So as long as you are within that 4-day deadline period, you will be able to go, you can click on this drop-down box here next to the course that you want to cancel, and you can click cancel course. And then you just want to answer yes to this question. And it will cancel the class for you, and then we should be able to see it on your canceled tab. So see how, so before I just had one of the HAZWAPR refresher sessions on my cancel tab. So now I have the other one that I just canceled. So again, that is how you can cancel a course yourself. You just have to make sure that you're doing that within that 4-day deadline. So that is the courses box. And then just a quick mention about the email communications here. So this is just a list of all emails that were sent to you from the Go Sign Me Up system. If you ever wanted to look at any of them, you can just click on the little envelope icon. So this one, for instance, the date is for today and it's a cancellation notice. So this is the email confirmation that I got for the HAZWAPR course that I just canceled. And if you scroll down, it will show you the details of that class and of the email that was sent to your inbox. Okay, so that is your Go Sign Me Up dashboard. Now let's go check out some classes and how to register for them.
And Lindsay, can you point out the training request form for them right there and the liaison list?
Sure, yeah. So on the browse courses screen, there is some really good information for you. Number one, for step-by-step registration instructions, you can click on the link here. And then also, if you just want to click a quick link to the TRF, the training request form, you can get that here. And if you are new and you don't know who your training liaison is, you can also click on the link here to access that information. And then if you would like to reach out and talk to us at the Academy, we also have this quick email link, which will take you right to sending us an email in Outlook. So with the browse courses screen, I'm not sure if everyone else's does this, but mine always defaults to a tiled view like this. You can actually switch back and forth to whichever one works best for you. So if we wanted to go with a list view instead, you just click on this little icon here and that will take you to a list view. A couple things that you can do for organization on this screen. So right now it doesn't really apply because all of our trainings are virtual, but if you wanted to search by a certain location, you can click on the drop-down box here and you can see which courses are in certain locations. Another thing that you could do is search by training category. So when you click on that drop-down field, it will show you all of the training categories for everything that we have going on right now. This could be really helpful if you are trying to figure out all classes that have leadership hours, for instance. So you could click on leadership here, and that will only show you things that have leadership hours. It'll only show you courses that have leadership hours attached to it. But for now, I just want to look at everything. Or maybe a refresh. We will go back to list view. Okay, so some things on this browse courses screen that can make it really easy for you to figure out which courses you are open to you for registration, which courses are locked for registration. You can just look at this column here, just for a quick snapshot of that. So this field safety training, this is one that Luke is actually enrolled in right now, so that's why it shows as enrolled. These two right here, if you notice the lock symbol by the add to cart, this just means that these courses are open only to a specific group of people. If you had been a part of that group that course was announced to, you actually would have gotten password information in your email. So if you did not receive that, that means that that class is currently not open for you to register for. If it does become open for you to register for or for all staff, then a new announcement email will be sent out for that. So that's what it means if you see this lock symbol. And then this is just a class that is open for registration to all, and it has room to register, so not just waitlist room. Let me see if I can try and find one that just has waitlist space. Yeah, so like the Excel Level 2 course here, this only has wait space available. That doesn't mean that you can't still register for the course. It just means that you will only be put on the wait list because the class is currently full. So just to click on one of these, I wanted to show you what this looks like here. So this is all of the information that you will need to sign up for a class. You can click on the read more to get more information about it. Just a quick note here, we have made a very recent change to where this cost information is now moved up to the very top. And we have done that because it is really important to put that information on your TRF when you're filling that out. Even for Academy classes, we always want to have the cost information on the TRF. So again, that's been moved up to the top just to bring attention to it for you, and just so that, you know, it's the first thing that you see and you know where to find it immediately. So this is all of your course information, and then in your dates and times, this will show you when the course is going to occur. Over in the credit section, that will show you how many instruction hours you get for the class, and then if the class had leadership hours, it would also show here if it had leadership hours. Down in this section, it is telling you what the format of the training is. So this is a virtual training, and it's going to be on using the vendor's platform, and then just any additional information about that training. And then over here, it is telling you how many wait spaces are available. Now, if this class still had open enrollment, still had seats open for enrollment, then you would see that number here on this row. And then you can just click on the wait space available, and the class will be added to your cart. And then one more thing to add, if you wanted to look at other offerings of the same class, you can find those down here in the additional offering section. So this is just showing you that this same class is being offered on November 30th and December 7th. Okay, I think that is all I had to show you here. So on our presentation, which again was posted into SharePoint, you will see all of these slides. Now, this is just for you to use as a reference, but it is just explaining everything that I just went over for you. So if you just needed to remember, well, how do I update my password? You can go to this slide. Information about how to run your transcript, how to self-cancel courses you're enrolled in, nuances about the browse courses screen, and then course information. You can refer back to that presentation for that. So I would now like to do a quick review of all of the information that you'll receive for Academy trainings that you're registered for. So at the start of the new fiscal year, we did update our announcement format. Instead of sending just one separate email announcement for every class that we offer, we're now sending out a combined announcement, and it's just sent out on an as-needed basis. Every new class added to the system is included on the announcement, as well as previously advertised courses that are still open for registration. The announcement includes date information as well as course length and also leadership hour information. To access all of the class details, you can actually click on the date for the class that you're interested in, and you'll be guided to the registration page and Go Sign Me Up. It's the page that I just showed you with all of the course information on it. The announcement also includes a link highlighted in orange that will take you directly to the Browse Courses screen where you can view all Academy trainings available. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that you don't actually have to wait to receive these email announcements in order to register for courses. So as long as a course is in the system and it isn't locked with a passcode, you can sign up for a class at any time. Once you go through that self-registration process for classes, you'll receive a confirmation email that looks like this. It is recommended that you create a calendar appointment for every course you are enrolled in or waitlisted for. And we make sure to remind you of this in your confirmation. If you do not remember your registration status, it is easy to find as it's included in the email in bold red letters. And the confirmation will also state at the very top if you are waitlisted in one or more classes. Also, it's really important to be aware that if you registered for several classes at one time, you'll actually only receive one confirmation email that includes all of those classes. So each new class if you do get a confirmation email that has multiple classes, each new class will begin with course information underlined, just so that it's, just for that easy distinction between classes. And you should be creating calendar appointments for each one. And besides this confirmation email here, staff will also receive course reminder emails, and that occurs at 18 and 10 days before the class. And you'll also receive virtual training details emails several days before the training. So that virtual training details email will, it looks like this, and it will always include the course information with dates and start and end times at the very top. The email has been updated to outline action items, which are listed out by day, so please make sure to pay close attention to those. The action items will always include downloading course materials and filling out the sign-in and evaluation forms, but it could also include pre and post course materials. It just depends on what the class that you registered for requires. And of course, the email will include the virtual training login link and information. It is a good idea to open the emails as soon as you receive them. Most of the time, we will put an open immediately or action required, something like that in the subject line of the email, just to let you know that it's something that you really should look at soon. But especially if you are registered in a class that has some pre-course items to complete before the training, it's important to get to that email as soon as possible. Also, since you should already have created a calendar appointment for your training using the confirmation email that you got from Go Sign Me Up, it's a good idea to copy and paste the information in your virtual training details email into that same appointment. That way, come the start of the class, you'll have all of the information that you need in the same space. So Don did touch on this when discussing no-shows, but I just want to repeat that filling out the sign-in form for all Academy trainings is super important. This is really the only way that you'll be marked as having attended a course. So for every class that the Academy offers, the sign-in sheet opens a half hour before the training, and it closes at 6 p.m. the same day. So we do leave plenty of time for you to make sure that you fill out that sign-in form. For trainings with multiple days of a class, there will be a sign-in form to fill out each day. And if you fail to fill out the form for every day, you will be marked as a no-show for that class. Just one last thing about this: when filling out the form, the screen shown here will pop up, and that is really the only way that you will know that your submission went through successfully. So just make sure that you see this when you hit the submit button. If you do not see this, please email the Academy immediately and we will walk you through how to fix it. So let's discuss some Academy training do's and don'ts. So number one for the do's, like we just talked about, make sure to sign in for every day of the training. Otherwise, you will not receive credit for that class. When attending trainings, always actively participate and give the instructor your full attention. You are expected to set aside all other work and stay for the entire length of the training that you're registered for. Please keep in mind that our instructors do take note of those who are not engaged, and we will not accept your attendance if we receive this feedback from them. Do fill out a TRF for every single training and make sure that you include the cost of the training on that form. Again, that can be found in the course description in Go Sign Me Up. The Academy does not need to see the documentation of the TRF, but you do need to fill out that form, which can be kept on file with your supervisor and training liaison. And last, make sure to do all of the pre and post course work that is asked of you. You will know if a course has this work if it is listed out in your virtual training details email, but also if a class has pre and post course work, that information is added on your confirmation email from Go Sign Me Up. Now let's go over some don'ts. Since you are expected to be fully engaged in all courses you take, you should never be performing daily work while you're in a training. Set it aside and come back to it when your class is finished. You're also expected to keep track of trainings you are signed up for and schedule appropriately. Please do not ignore classes you are waitlisted for. Keep in mind that even if you're on a waitlist, you can become enrolled in a class up to 3 days before that training, which also includes weekends. And you need to be fully prepared to attend even if you are waitlisted. If you know that you will not be able to attend a course, please do not ignore it even if you are waitlisted. Also, never register for multiple sessions of a class. Any seat you take up that you do not use means a spot that is taken away from someone else. We just ask that you be courteous to your fellow water boards employees. And last, never disregard the training services guidelines. They are created for a reason and there are no exceptions to them. Before we move on, are there any questions about our registration system and all the information that you'll receive for classes you are enrolled in?
So I wanted to note, Lindsay, I just fixed the link to the training liaisons on Go Sign Me Up. When I asked you to show people where it was, somebody had messaged me directly that they couldn't find it. And it's probably because the link was broken. That's what they meant, was that it wasn't working. So it is now updated, and the training liaison list, which Sarah will show you, is also in SharePoint. You can access that directly from Go Sign Me Up. So that's just an added step to make it easier for you, that you can get the training request form and the liaison list right from the homepage of Go Sign Me Up. And then Lindsay, you also have a question in chat. Do you need to complete a TRF if you sign up for the waiting list?
Yes, we do ask that you complete a TRF just because you can be moved from the waiting list to enrolled at any time. And it's a good idea just to be as fully prepared as possible because, you know, that can happen, you know, up to 3 days in advance of a class. And you might not, at that time, you might not have a chance to fill it out. Any other questions? Okay. Next up, Sarah is going to talk about the websites and resources available to you to navigate the world of training.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah, the Technical Training Coordinator with the Academy. So next, I'm going to go through our new training services SharePoint site. So we have a brand new website on SharePoint. We've transitioned a majority of our resources from the intranet, from the WaterNet intranet to SharePoint, so that Staff throughout the state, whether you're working from home or in the office, can easily access the resources and information. I'm going to share my screen now so that we can take a look at the website. Let's see. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen now. Can I get a confirmation? Okay, great. So this is our landing page for training services on SharePoint. There are a couple of ways that you can access this site. The easiest would be to click on that direct link that we provided in the presentation. Another way is if you're still using the Waternet or intranet, you can access training services either on the left-hand navigation pane here. If you click on training services, that will take you directly to SharePoint. Another way is if you go up here at ORPP, training services is housed within the Office of Research Planning and Performance. So you can hover over ORPP and then click the training services link, which will also take you directly to SharePoint. For those of you who are already using SharePoint, on the Water Board's homepage, you can access training by looking at the navigation pane up at the top and clicking training, and that will also take you to the SharePoint site. So a couple of things I wanted to point out on this homepage. On the left-hand pane here, you'll see a link for Academy course materials. We will always post Academy course materials to SharePoint. So if you lose your email from today's training and need to find the materials from today, go ahead and click the Academy course materials and you'll find and search for the folder with the course title, and then you'll be able to find all of the related materials there. Next up, I want to show you guys the announcements up here at the top. So this information here will change periodically depending on any new announcements that we want to share with you. So we will always have the Training Academy course catalog listed here, and you can download an Excel version or a PDF version. These are updated monthly. So if you're wondering what classes we have coming up soon, make sure to download that and you'll find specific training dates and all of the courses that we had planned throughout the fiscal year. You'll also find some updates on submission deadlines. Like Stephen mentioned before, our new submission deadline for non-contract vendors is 35 business days. So you find those kinds of updates here. And then Stephen also showed you our end of the fiscal year submission cutoff dates. If you want a reminder on when those are, just make sure to click that link here. So next up, if you scroll a little bit further, you'll see this big link up here at the top that will take you to the Academy registration system, Go Sign Me Up. So that's another way to access that. And then if you scroll a little bit further down, you'll see several icons, and these will all link you to different subpages within SharePoint. So for new staff, I know there's several of you are newer with the Water Board, so you'll want to first get started with training services. And if you're a new employee, just go ahead and click here. And this will give you an overview of, differences between the Training Academy and the Training Office. And this also lists some steps for you to take if you're a new employee and you're just getting started with training. And then if you scroll a little bit further down, Lindsay had just talked about how you can request a new account, and you'll be able to find that information here. So if you don't have an account, this is what you need to submit to the Training Academy to set one up. And then we also have some password tips and some reference materials. I do want to point out the reference materials. There's a Getting Started with Training Services fact sheet. And this is just a 2-page document that has all of these important tips and reminders that you can print out and post on your bulletin board for easy access. Okay, so that is Getting Started. We also have what Stephen mentioned earlier, access training conferences, guidelines and procedures at this link here. So go ahead and click that. On the landing page, it'll give you some tips and steps on how to attend an internal Academy course and how to attend external or outside non-Academy events, so events through the training office. This will go into a little bit more detail on the steps that you need to take, whether that's submitting a TRF or a conference package. And we also have notes on the registration and submission deadlines here. And we also have additional links at the bottom. We call them related topics. You'll find some additional guidelines here, like if you're wondering how to sponsor Academy course or request a new Academy registration system account. We also have instructions on how to view Academy training and a bunch of different resources here. So definitely recommend you take some time to review all of these related topics and links at the bottom here. So I'm going to scroll back up, and up at the top, there's a link to the registration, cancellation, and no-show guidelines. So I'm going to click that. And Stephen showed you this briefly before, but these are all of our guidelines. All of these are direct links to registration guidelines for Academy courses and non-Academy events, our no-show guidelines and cancellation guidelines. So if you click one of these links, it'll take you to the appropriate section in the page. And then, yeah, I definitely recommend you take some time to review all of these guidelines. Again, we want to make sure that you are, submitting things on time and ensuring that you're getting credit for courses and things like that. So make sure you review these guidelines in detail before signing up for training. So I'm going to go and navigate back to our home page. The next thing that I wanted to show you was the training forms. So as we mentioned before, there are several forms such as the training request form and conference package forms. So this is where you'll be able to download that. And there are a couple of other sign-in and tracking sheets. Generally for Academy courses, you'll need to submit an MS Forms sign-in sheet, which is what you most are probably familiar with. But there are other trainings that require some other PDF sign-in sheets, and you can go ahead and download those from the site here. And go back to the home page. We will go into mandatory trainings a little bit more in depth in a second. So I'm going to gloss over that for a second and then go over some other resources that we have. You can click on this training programs link. This will link you to other programs that we have. Water leadership program, I'm going to highlight that a little bit more later. We have some information about the CalHR analyst series and additional links to the Academy catalog and other trainings. So that's training programs. And then we have some other online training resources. We have a bunch of recorded courses. We call them on-demand courses. And this will, if you click this link here, that'll take you to back to the WaterNet, and you'll get a list of all of the past recorded trainings that we have offered previously. We also have an online writing lab. So for those of you who are interested in honing your writing skills, go ahead and take a look at the online writing lab link. We also have an accessibility toolkit and some additional desktop and external training resources. So again, lots of resources here. Feel free to take some time to explore these links on your own time. And then we also have a training frequently asked questions page. So if you have any questions, I would first check this FAQ page. And if you can't find your answer here, then go ahead and reach out to your training liaison or to the Academy or training office. And then we have another page on coaching. So for any supervisors and managers that we have here today, or for anyone looking for writing coaching, then go ahead and click this page and you'll find some information about how you can request that. And then finally, a couple of you have asked how can you find out who your training liaison is? You can go ahead and click this training liaison toolkit. And then you will click on the training liaison assignments link here under contracts and signatures. And then here you'll see who your training liaison is listed by their organization, location, and you'll also have their phone number here. So yeah, that's how you find your training liaison. Okay. Okay, so I did want to just pause and let you guys ask a few questions if you have any on navigating SharePoint so far. Do we have anything in the chat?
Nothing in the chat, Sarah. I did just get a direct message question of somebody asking if they can access SharePoint. They're new to SharePoint, so they're wanting to know if they can access that without VPN access.
Yes, you can access that without VPN access. You do have to make sure that you're signed into your Waterboards account. And hopefully you guys can see that as I've clicked here on my my initials up here at the top. You have to be signed into your Waterboards account to be able to access the Waterboard SharePoint site. One more tip that I have for you is you can click the star button over here that says follow, and that will keep this page linked on your own SharePoint homepage. Another thing you can do is just favorite this through your browser of choice, so that you can easily access it. Okay, moving on now, if there are no questions. We're going to talk about some mandatory training. So I glossed over this a second ago because I'm going to go into this a little bit more in depth now. So now we're on the mandatory training page. So this is what I'm calling our mandatory training hub. You'll find a list of mandatory trainings for non-supervisory staff, supervisors, managers, and execs, board members, and you'll also find some additional job duty specific requirements. If you are non-supervisory staff, go ahead and click on this first link here. And this table will show you all of your training requirements as a new staff member with the Waterboards. This will show you the course title, and all staff will need to at least take an initial training. So go ahead and take a look at the second column on when you're supposed to complete your initial training. This next column will be instructions on how to register and access the course. A few of these are pre-recorded trainings and some of these are instructor-led trainings. So make sure you pay attention to that and see how you're supposed to access the course. Next up, as I mentioned before, there are a couple of different ways to receive credit. Either you submit the MS Forms sign-in sheet, or you have to submit a PDF sign-in form. So pay attention to this one so that you can make sure you get credit for taking the course. And some of these courses will need to refresh on a regular basis. So for example, the ergonomic awareness training, you need to take that within your initial training within the first 10 days of your appointment. And then you have to repeat the course every 4 years. Okay, so that is non-supervisory training. You might also need to take some job duty specific training. So you would click this link here, and depending on what you're doing, if your job involves field work, or if you work in cannabis, one of the cannabis units, or if you're driving while on the job, there are a couple of different requirements here. So depending on what you do, explore this page, talk to your supervisor, talk to your training liaison to figure out which ones you need for your specific job duties. And figure out when you need to complete it, how to access and register for the course. All of that information is available in the tables here. Okay. So this will also, I know there are a couple of supervisors and managers with us today. You have a couple of the same requirements and a few different requirements. So for supervisors and managers, you're required to take an initial leadership training within the first 12 months of your appointment. So if you're a supervisor, you're going to need to take an 80-hour training. Managers will take a 40-hour training, and executives will take a 20-hour training. Again, you'll find out how you can register for the course by looking at this third column here. A couple of these, or this initial leadership training is coordinated with CalHR. So this is considered an external training. So you'll need to work with the training office to get registered and set up to take this training. If you scroll down a little bit further here, you'll see some other training requirements. Some of them are similar to what non-supervisory staff have to take, like the ergonomic awareness training, injury, illness prevention. And some of these are specific for supervisors and managers only. So we just talked about the initial leadership training. There's also a biennial leadership training requirement for supervisors, managers, and CEAs. And you'll see that listed here. So basically, when you complete your initial leadership training, you're going to need to complete 20 hours of leadership training every 2 years after that. Let's see here. So you can click on the link here on how to register and access course. You click on the leadership training link here. This will dive a little bit deeper into that initial training requirement and your biennial requirement. So for supervisors, managers, and executives, you can take a variety of training courses to fulfill this 20 hours of leadership requirement. You can take a course through the Training Academy, which is the easiest way to fulfill this requirement. As Lindsay mentioned before on the training announcements, we always list leadership hours on that announcement. You can also do coaching, and you can also take trainings through CalHR or other external vendors. Do want to note that if you are taking trainings through external vendors, you need to make sure that you submit your certificate over to the training office so that we have your completion on record and so that we can ensure that you're meeting your requirements. Okay, so that is mandatory leadership. Let's transition back to the presentation now, Lindsay, if you don't mind. Thanks, Lindsay. Okay, so we are still going to talk a little bit about the leadership training requirement for supervisors and managers. So we started releasing quarterly leadership compliance reports. We started that last fall to track your leadership hours. This report includes your initial leadership training compliance status, when your biennial time period is, and what your biennial leadership training compliance status is. So this report includes both Training Academy courses and training office courses that you've submitted certificates for. So if you're ever wondering what your progress is with your leadership training requirements, reach out to your training liaison who receives this leadership compliance report and refer to this report to monitor your progress. Okay. So before we transition to sponsoring Academy courses, I did want to see if anyone had questions about mandatory trainings before we move on. Don't think I see anything in the chat so far. All right, let's move on here then. So earlier I mentioned that I, as a technical training coordinator, work with staff to develop and deliver new training courses. So I'm going to dive into what the course sponsorship process is for developing new courses. So we provide a variety of customized training courses for staff, and we often work with staff to develop these courses. If you have an idea for a new course that you'd like to see offered, you can become a program sponsor and work with me to develop the course. To get started, I would ask that you review the course development process on SharePoint and designate a sponsor to work with me through the sponsorship process. At least 4 months before the training, we'll ask that you fill out the sponsor proposal template and get an executive sponsor to sign off on your approval. So this executive sponsor is someone in your management chain, like your program manager or your executive officer, who agrees that the need for this course exists and that the course concept is appropriate. Next, once you have your executive sponsor approval, you submit the proposal to the Academy for review, and then we'll prepare a budget estimate and determine if we have the resources to develop the course. If we do have the resources, we'll approve the proposal, and then from there, the sponsor is going to work with the course instructor to develop the course. Keep in mind, this process can take 4 to 6 months from conception to delivery. So keep that timeline in mind if you're thinking about when you want to offer the course. Obviously, if you want it to be offered in the summer, you're going to have to start working on this development process in the fall or winter beforehand. Okay. So next up, there are existing Academy courses that are not offered regularly each year that you can also sponsor. If you find a need to take the training again, you can reach out to the Academy and submit a new course checklist with details on like how many people you want to be in the class, the location, and specific training dates that you're requesting. So you'll submit that 90 days before the course. We will work with the appropriate vendor or coordinator to see if we have the resources to make it available. And if so, we'll approve your request, and then we'll announce the course 60 days before the first offering. That'll give staff some time to sign up for the training, and then the Academy can provide additional support or resources such as setting up sign-in sheets and evaluation forms for you. So yeah, that's existing Academy courses. So I'm going to transition a little bit. Earlier, I mentioned where you can find information about the Water Leadership Program on SharePoint. So this program is a program dedicated to develop and support leadership within the water boards. It's made up of 2 certificate series and 3 cohorts. The certificate series is the new training cycle just began this month. And if you're interested in developing your leadership skills, you can visit the WLP SharePoint site for more information on the prerequisite requirements to see if you first qualify to participate, and for more information on how to join. We also launched our very first cohort just last week on September 22nd. And this is a new cohort for non-supervisory staff to further develop their leadership skills. It's too late to join now. However, this cohort will run every fiscal year. So if you're interested in participating in a future cohort, keep on the lookout for information from the Training Academy about the application process. And as I mentioned, there's lots more information on SharePoint. So go ahead and you can click the link here on this slide to explore the website a little bit more. And another training cycle that I wanted to point out was the HAZWOPER refresher cycle, which begins in October. So this 8-hour HAZWOPER refresher course is required to maintain a HAZWOPER certification. And this is for staff who are doing any field work or visiting any sites that have hazardous materials. We offer this training every fiscal year in the fall and the spring. Registration is now open. We have filled a majority of the courses already. So if you do need this training at this point, go ahead and sign up for the wait list, and we'll work on getting you signed up and enrolled in a course. And for those of you who do site visits or field work, if you are unsure that you need this training, talk to your supervisor or the health and safety unit in DAS. And you can also visit the mandatory training hub and visit that job duty specific requirements page to see if you fall under any of those categories. Okay. Next up, so as you guys know, this presentation is part of the Water Boards 101. It's titled Water Boards 101, and this is actually a series of courses that's intended to give new and existing staff an overview of the various parts of the water board. We've been doing this training services 101 for about 1.5 years now, and we also have other 101 trainings from DDW, DWQ, and DFA, and we're working on one with ELAP right now. If you're interested in learning about these programs, you can view our trainings on demand on the intranet. And if you're interested in creating a 101 for your specific organization, definitely reach out to me and we can go ahead and start coordinating that. Okay, so that pretty much concludes our presentation today. The next couple of slides here are just some additional links and references to things we talked about earlier in this training. So you'll find some direct links to things like the training liaison list, all of our registration, cancellation, and no-show guidelines, our FAQs, things like that. So if you're not exploring the WLP SharePoint site, at least take a look at these additional links here to explore a little bit more in depth all of the stuff we talked about today. All right, so I'm going to transition over to JV.
Thank you, Sarah. So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute and ask them or put them in chat right now. Definitely, you know, this is a lot of information that we just gave, and that's kind of the point, that there is a lot of information and some of the rules and guidelines do change from time to time. So I think it's really important for new staff and everybody to know where to get their questions answered. So to be familiar with the SharePoint site, to kind of understand the difference between the training academy and the training office, and know how and when to rely on your training liaison and know who that person is. Those are all really important details, but you know, we do understand that you may not take training for a while, and it's crystal clear the day you do it tomorrow, and then 6 months from now, you're saying to yourself, I know there were steps, but I'm not sure what they were. So this presentation, which is posted on SharePoint, is a reference for you, a resource as the recording of this training, and then your training liaison, and if necessary, the training services staff. So, you know, looking at the chat at the beginning, we did have some people as new as 2 weeks in the job. We had some 5 weeks, quite a few, going all the way up to somebody with 30+ years. So a definite welcome to the new people. And, you know, we just want to make sure that you do know how to get your questions answered so that we can give everybody the most access to training. Looks like we have a question in chat that says, when filling out a TRF, if you're waitlisted, do you need to note that you are waitlisted somewhere on there? So there really aren't wait lists for the training office. So it's really an academy thing. And, you know, you don't need to notate that on the TRF. You can fill out the TRF for an academy class that you're waitlisted for in the same way. When you do submit it to your supervisor or the liaison, you can let them know that you're currently on the wait list. And the academy registration system will notify you by email automatically that you've been put into that class. So that can happen, like Lindsay said, on the weekend when somebody might drop out of the class. It isn't waiting for us to be in the office. So definitely keep an eye out for those. It is a good idea to get the TRF done in advance but there isn't an indication on the TRF itself if it's waitlisted or enrolled, because you still, when you're on the waiting list, you should have every expectation that a seat will open up and you will be moved into the class. So you should be getting your supervisor's approval to actually be moved into that class. In our last minute, any other questions? Or anything the team wanted to point out, highlight, sign in for Academy classes, do, all the things, read those virtual training details emails, evaluations, whenever you have a link and you have instructions, definitely take a look at that in advance and make sure that you are ready to attend and don't receive a no-show because you forgot to do that kind of thing. Yeah, and thank you. Joanne put a note that this is very helpful. So we're very glad to hear that. And like I said, use this presentation as a resource for sure to make sure that you are able to access the training you need. And with that, it is 11:30. So training services can hang around for a minute just in case there's any additional questions, but we will let you all go on time and say thank you for coming and spending the last couple hours with us learning about training services. All right, thank you all.